this new information is continuing to come in now about the 2 illegal immigrants accused of shooting an off-duty Border Patrol agent in New York City. That agent hospitalized, recovering after he was shot in the arm and shot in the face during that attempted armed robbery in Manhattan's Riverside Park on Saturday night. Now we're learning the 2 suspects are expected to be charged in federal court later today. So this is what happens when DHS lands in the morning with the border czar and they get things rolling in a sanctuary city. It takes that level of participation and leadership to push against the crazy policies in New York City. Anyway, both these suspects were previously caught and released at the border under the previous administration, and they each have a lengthy history of violent crime.
And thank goodness that we have Kristi Noem and Tom Homan and President Trump who are in charge and are going to say enough.
Is it enough to turn sanctuary cities around when just last hour, Kennedy, I showed where 2 more socialists are now mayors, and they're looking at one here who, number one thing, wants to defund police and has said for ICE agents not to get any help from NYPD.
Yeah, no, he wants to flood the NYPD with social workers so they can, talk to mentally ill drug addicts, some of whom are here illegally, including the man who set a woman on fire and killed her in the subway. And they're going to talk about their feelings. Well, New York City is unlike any other city in this country. And, our law enforcement requirements are different than they are anywhere else. And I fear that someone is going to come in who doesn't have respect for the NYPD and is going to try and neuter the department even further. They've already had big recruitment problems. And, we should all be so lucky to have an off-duty federal officer with us at all times. Most people don't. And clearly these are people who were serial criminals. They were wanted for essentially the same crime in Massachusetts. And if you run in the parks here in New York City, like Riverside Park on the Hudson River, you see guys 2 at a time in full masks on scooters, riding scooters. And it's like, I wish there was law enforcement there, because as a woman running alone, that's pretty terrifying.
I run in that park as well.
Look, Kennedy, last hour, I brought up the point with Jason Rance, and I don't think you can run away from this. In this city, we have a pretty big power keg of politics going on for who's going to be the next mayor. Mondani is not part of this conversation today because he's on a lengthy, as he described, vacation in Uganda.
In the middle of he was secretly married.
Okay, well, whatever it is, it was at the kind of the apex of all the talk about him, and then not going well for Democrats who didn't want to endorse him. And then you've got Eric Adams taking a little bit of verbal incoming today from Secretary Noem, and we understand why, because these guys were caught and released under his watch. But much of the city now is going independent. Where do you put the politics, and why should that matter on this particular issue?
It matters because no matter how liberal someone says they are, and there are a lot of liberals, there are a lot of Democrats in New York City. I talked to a bunch of people last week on buses about the mayoral race. And, obviously they're scared their taxes are going to go up. But the thing that was top of mind for most people is, of course, their safety. Now, what Mayor Adams is running on is the city is safer than it was when I got into office. It's safer than it was during the beginning of the pandemic, which is good, but we have a long way to go to get back to the point where, we used to be able to say, to the running point again, women can run in Central Park at 8 o'clock at night by themselves. That was the case maybe 2015, 2016. That is not the case right now. We have a long way to go. And, I worry that this soft talk on crime and holding criminals and, letting the mentally ill, deranged people back out on the street to reoffend, because it's the recidivism that is so incredibly problematic in this country that, DAs and unfortunately mayors don't want to get to.
It's a great point. You're a goddamn genius.
Goddamn genius.